in a nutshell about literature with Joseph Pearcem.
Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I am Franczak and this is part 32 of In a Nutshell About Literature with Joseph Pearcem. If you haven't seen the previous episodes yet, please check out the playlist. You can also watch them in 5 longer compilation videos instead of the short ones. Today, Joseph answers an interesting question from one of our viewers about the connection between Greek tragedy and modern politics. One of our viewers posted this question under the video, if I remember, when we were talking about ancient literature, and I quote, it is a little bit long, so please stay with me. So, I have a question for you, gentlemen, in particular for Mr. Pearcem. I have enjoyed reading your books. Earlier, you spoke about the role of Greek tragedy today. How would Mr. Pearcem comment on the revival of Greek tragedy in the USA in relation to politics? In the USA, numerous voices say that effective and balanced politics require reference to Greek tragedy. In his new book, American political writer Robert Kaplan puts it this way. As the Greeks defined it, tragedy is not the triumph of evil over good, but the triumph of one good over another good that causes suffering. Kaplan considers the lessons for foreign policy making to be drawn from classical Greek and Shakespearean tragedies to offer a view that US policy makers must think tragically to avoid tragedy. This perspective is often associated with realist theory or similar concepts, which are unlikely to produce the desired lasting solutions and tends to overemphasize military factors and options. Kaplan claims that tragedy is about bravely trying to fix the world, but only within limits. He and other writers seek a hidden grammar of the modern era in Greek tragedy, at least for the Anglo-Saxon world, which is experiencing a cultural and religious crisis. End of quote.
Well, that's an intriguing perspective. I'm not going to comment upon the person who asked the question, but on the assumption that his depiction of Kaplan's book is accurate, I would first of all say that Kaplan's definition of tragedy is erroneous. A tragedy, a Greek tragedy, and a Shakespearean tragedy is somewhat different, and we could talk about that too. Shakespeare doesn't just ape Greek tragedy; he does something new with tragedy. But as regards Greek tragedy, it's about someone who is a noble, heroic character who nonetheless has a tragic flaw, normally connected to the sin of hubris, to pride. And it's this tragic flaw which leads to his downfall and also the destruction of others, including the innocent. And I would actually say that this definition of Greek tragedy is actually much more apropos of modern politics. I mean, modern politicians basically, through their own hubris, through their own pride, bring about ultimately their own downfall, but cause a great deal of damage to their own countries and to their own people in the process, and possibly even leading to war. So I think there are lessons to be learned in Greek tragedy. I just don't think it's the lessons that Kaplan is suggesting, if on the assumption that description of his book is accurate.
It actually, if I understand it correctly, it reminds me of my lessons of literature from the 1980s in the communist Poland, where the typical interpretation of Antigone by Sophocles was that this is a conflict of equal reasons or arguments, yes, put on the same plane, as to speak. For a long time, I've been of an opinion that it is wrong. Actually, it is wrong. The wrong interpretation of this great play, because I think that you cannot put on the same level the principles given by gods, yes, like in ancient Greek, and arguments or principles created or rules created by people, right?
No, actually, I think you make a very good point there, and I think I'd like to answer it in two ways. First of all, about Antigone itself. It's quite clear, irrespective of our own perspective, that the author's perspective, in other words, Sophocles' approach to the story, is that King Creon is a tyrant, and therefore his perspective is one of tyranny. The consequences of that tyranny is he alienates his own son and ends up destruction of his own son, as well as the destruction of Antigone. It's quite clear from the actual play itself, unless you misread it egregiously, that Sophocles' perspective is that is basically that Antigone is the heroine, and that view is echoed by the chorus. The chorus sometimes acts in a cowardly way, but we know that's because they're scared of the king, not because they agree with the king, right? Some very apropos communist Eastern Europe at the time. But the other thing I want to say about it, I think this will probably feed into Kaplan's thesis, is rather than a hierarchy in terms of morality, in other words, good and evil, we have just the will to power, which is that's hence, that there's not a good or evil. We're beyond good and evil, in the words of Nietzsche. It's about the will to power, and Kaplan's being, well, basically a tragedy is about, that it's about power. No, it's not. It's about weakness. It's about a moral weakness that causes destruction. So, this effort to relativize through relativism the hierarchy of virtue, which we see in the great works of Western civilization, into a mere power play between relativistic forces, is a misreading of the works themselves.
Mm-hmm. Besides, I think there is another important factor in the Greek tragedy, which is the concept of fate, right? That we cannot avoid it. Whatever we do, our destiny is such and such, and we can do nothing about it. Yes, this is another thing that I suppose is important in interpreting.
But even then, not necessarily disagreeing with you, Jan, but I would like a distinguo, just make a distinction here, that even then it may be that circumstances are such that there's nothing we can do about them, and even from a Christian perspective, we can accept that, right? You might find yourself in Auschwitz concentration camp, in the Gulag archipelago, and basically your fate is now preordained, and barring some miracle, you're going to rot there and die there. But the point is that there is a providence which overrides and supersedes and transcends that fate. That basically, if you stay true to that which is good, true, and beautiful in fateful circumstances, then ultimately you triumph over those circumstances through getting to heaven. Right? It's not going to save you from being killed in the concentration camp, but it will be the triumph, the ultimate triumph of being with God in heaven. So the point is that even, and I think, by the way, this applies much more than many people seem to think to the Greek tragedy, because there is the Antigone in that particular play, for instance. I'm only alive for so long, right? Pleasing men can only be so important, because when I die, I'm with the gods forever. That it's much more important for me to worry about my eternal destiny than my temporal fate. So therefore, even in Antigone, it's quite clear that you've got to have a telos, and that telos is that ultimately you are going to enter into the domain of the gods, and you don't want to enter into the domain of the gods as an enemy of the gods.
Exactly, yes. Thank you for watching. If you haven't seen the previous episodes, once again, please check the In a Nutshell About Literature playlist. And please remember, you can support the development of this channel in several ways. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it yet. Like this video and leave a comment. Share the video by copying the link and posting it on other social media. And finally, support us financially by buying me a virtual cup of coffee or making a donation. Please check the options below the video, and you will find there links to two services, including Buy Coffee Too and Zrzutka. Thank you once again, and see you in the next episodes of In a Nutshell About Literature with Joseph Pearcem. God bless you.